Guys, we gotta talk about Attack on Titan. And no, before you get any ideas, this is not gonna be one of those videos where all I do is just sing the show's praises. I mean, we already know it's good. Instead, I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different. In this video, I wanna talk about the alternate ending to the story. Yes, the path that we never got to see. If we take a look back at the journey Isayama-san took to get this story in front of our eyes, we'll notice that there were a lot of changes made along the way. Some more drastic than others. In order to best explain this, I'm going to have to go back to the very beginning, to the very inception of Attack on Titan. Oita, Japan. It was right here in this city that the man who would soon bring us all suffering was born. Isayama-san started working on different manga concepts as early as high school, although it wasn't until after he had graduated that he would submit his first work to the MGP. It was then, in 2006, that he'd finally introduced the world to Attack on Titan. Well, not exactly the world, but more like a small committee of 5 people, something like that, you get the point. You can actually find his one-shot under the name Attack on Titan Volume 0. It initially came with the Blu-ray for the first season. You could almost call it a pilot for the actual series, as a lot of the ideas and concepts that would later be expanded are in there. You can tell that he's been holding on to this idea for a very long time. The initial setup for the one-shot is very similar to what we got, as the setting is a distant city surrounded by a wall of giant trees. We follow the soldier by the name of Murakumo, who has just arrived back home and finds a young girl who begs him to take her under his wing. She mentions that she wants him to train her so that way she could be strong like her father and join the vanguard. Her parents have long passed, and she wants to do her best to try and fight off against the Titans like her father did. Murakumo tries to shut her down by stating that her eagerness is the same eagerness that her father showed before he died. He eventually does give in and accept her offer under the condition that she practices swinging her sword 100 times a day. Right after that, he leaves to see a group of soldiers approaching him and accusing him of being a Titan in disguise. He notices that something's up and immediately slashes one of them down. The soldiers are all stunned and confused, but he just revealed who the true Titan in disguise was. The Titan was using the body of his long dead master. So Titans in this interpretation are creatures that can turn into humans that they have eaten, and not the other way around. At least it seems that way. While the other soldiers in the vanguard try to fight off this Titan, they ultimately get decimated until Murakumo reveals that he himself is a Titan and starts fending them off. In the end, the Titans are still too much for him to handle, and he ends up dying a noble death as a hero of the town. The chapter then ends with her paying respects at his grave, and the final shot shows her doing her 100 slashes a day just as she promised him before he died. This chapter was a hero's tale. It wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel when it came to storytelling or anything. It was very much a proof of concept. Even the idea of Titan shifters is noticeably different here when you compare it to that of the original series. In the Attack on Titan that we know, Titans are all derived from humans, whereas this original interpretation implies that Titans are their own entity. They are just able to also take the form of a human that they may have eaten or encountered in the past, and then use said forms to infiltrate the enemy and attack from the inside, just like you saw in Volume 0. Which is actually very similar to how Isayama-san handles the Colossal and Armored Titan in the main series. And also notice there's no signs of maneuver gear here. My guess is that it probably wasn't designed yet, or maybe he didn't come up with the idea until a later revision. And since it's just a one-shot, it's not really required for him to put that much work into it anyway, as there were never any plans to make anything continuing where this chapter left off. Even so, I do highly recommend you all give it a read because it just gives you so much more insight on all the ideas that later became integral to making Attack on Titan work as a story. It also serves as a great inspiration for anyone who wants to get into storytelling or making a manga of their own, because it shows just how much practice Isayama-san had to go through in order to get the story just right. When you look at the one shot, the art isn't the best and the writing is just so-so, but knowing where things went from here makes it all the more impressive. Isayama-san had this to say when asked about how the experience was when pitching Attack on Titan.
I remember I was so nervous that my stomach hurt. But for those with the ambitions of becoming mangaka, Presenting work to editors is just like a job interview, so of course you would be nervous. However, I still submitted my work without fearing any consequences or rejection. You see, this dream of mine began during grade school, so unless I'm told in person, you won't make it, I would have never given up. With this in mind, I sought to show my drafts to more professional editors in the manga industry, and I progressed step by step from there.
This early work-in-progress version of Attack on Titan was given the Fine Work Award. I'm not sure how big of a deal that award is, but really? The Fine Award? It's very underwhelming. I mean, is there a Good Work Award as well? Fine Work just sounds like a participation grade. But that didn't get him down because this award was the first of many. Isayama-san left for Tokyo at the age of 20 in hopes of becoming a full-time manga author. In 2009, Attack on Titan would finally become serialized by Busatsu Shonen magazine. Isayama-san's dream had finally come true, but what he didn't realize was just how big Attack on Titan was gonna be. What came next was something that not even he could predict. The series went on to get an anime adaptation, video games, and even a 2-part live-action film. There's even statues of the characters immortalized in his hometown. The question is, though, would all of this have still happened if Isayama hadn't changed the story? It may be shocking to hear, but changes like these were pretty common in the early stages. Take a look at Sasha's death, for instance. Originally, he had planned to have it happen back in chapter 36, but he wasn't sure if that was a fitting end for the character. Luckily, his editor shared the same sentiment and they agreed to postpone her death until much later. Now, Sasha's death means so much more to the story and serves as a big turning point in the Marley arc that, quite frankly, no other character could fulfill. Isayama-san has also mentioned that Historia was never quite meant to play a major role either. He originally created her because he felt like he needed that cute character that most popular manga had in his manga. Which does make sense. I mean, you do want your manga to sell well, so I understand him chasing trends, but what I appreciate is that instead of tossing her to the side when he was done, he made sure to find a place for her where she could become a valuable asset to the story. This brings us full circle to the point of this video. What was the original ending that Isayama-san had in mind? As we all know, he loves to torment his readers, and the original ending was definitely going to do just that. However, it's only after the huge surge in popularity that Isayama-san felt that he now had a responsibility to do his viewers justice. Just killing off everyone isn't exactly a great way to end your story. He knew this world had too much potential to just be thrown away like that. In multiple interviews, Isayama-san has often talked about the film The Mist. Derived from the Stephen King novel, The Mist is a film about a family that wakes up one day to see this thick layer of mist that spreads from the lake. They try to escape it by taking refuge in a grocery store, but the creatures that reside in the mist end up snatching people up one by one. Reading the synopsis, I can definitely see how Isayama-san took inspiration from this. Now, the reason I am bringing this up is because Isayama-san has gone on record saying that he has always wanted Attack on Titan to end in a way that's similar to this film. So in order to best explain the alternate ending, I would first have to explain the ending of the movie to help give you context. So, spoilers for The Mist. The film ends with them trying to make an escape in the car until ultimately they get surrounded by the mist. All who's left is just the man, his family, and a few acquaintances. By this point in the film, they have lost all hope and know that their death is imminent. They begin to hear the creatures approaching from all sides. This now forces them to come to a decision. They could either take the easy way out, or they could face the gruesome death of the monsters. Knowing what that now looks like, they decide to go with the easy way out. So the man takes the gun they have and agrees that he will shoot each and every one of them and then ultimately shoot himself. He accepts the burden and then goes through with it. Except, once it's his turn, he gets frustrated by what he's done and decides to challenge the monsters himself. He gets out of the car and the mist starts to dissipate, revealing that the noises that he heard weren't monsters at all. Instead, it was the military coming in to save them. The man then falls on the ground and he grieves in pain. It's a real tragedy. We know Isayama-san is more than capable of executing an ending like this, but I doubt he would have copied it beat for beat. Unfortunately, he hasn't came out and said what his version of that ending would look like, but that doesn't mean I can't give you my take on the idea. Now, before we get started, I have to warn you that this is all going to be one big what if scenario, so please don't take any of the things I say as fact, as this video is mainly being made for fun and I just want to start a conversation. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the alternate ending. In order for us to reach a scenario that's similar to the ending of The Mist, we would first have to change the course of the story. I think the best course of action is starting exactly where Isayama made his first big change in chapter 36. I say this because I think Isayama-san wouldn't have changed his mind in this instance and would have kept her death this early into the story. I also can't imagine us making it as far as the Marley arc, so for this version of the story, I think it would probably end around the 80 chapter mark. For this new interpretation, I'm going to be using Isayama-san's one-shot as it's the only thing we have to go off of to extrapolate his old ideas. For this Attack on Titan, we're going to be sticking to the action horror genre that was set up in the first season. We're not going to be delving into the politics like they did in later seasons because at the end of the day, this is going to end up being a dark fantasy. The pure Titans in this version are still going to remain scary, but we'll use them in different ways. Titans are no longer humans in this version, as I'm going to be using the idea from the one-shot and have Titans be a separate race that also have the ability to transform into a human for the use of infiltration. That way we could still have the Reiner and Bertolt reveal with minor alterations here and there. Their goal can still be to capture Eren, but not because they need him for Marley. Instead, it can be for him to use his founding Titan ability, as it's the only way that they can release the rumbling and destroy humanity. Remember, in this iteration, humanity isn't bigger than the walls. We're trying to keep the story as simple as possible in order to amplify the effects of the ending. The story that we got doesn't really have an avenue for this to just be implemented and work, so we're gonna have to make a ton of changes. Another one being the circumstance for how Eren got his power. If we're going to have all of the Titans be their own race, then we're going to have Eren be the outlier. He's going to be the first human who has the ability to turn into a Titan, just like Murakumo in the one-shot. The basement would still be crucial as it's humanity's only lead on a way to victory. So the main goal for the story is to reach the basement and unlock the key to saving humanity. Pretty much exactly what season 1 was doing. So now this leaves a lot of opportunity for different backstories for all the Titan shifters. We can have Ymir get more involved and maybe even have her switch sides and eventually maybe get to another great Titan war, which is honestly something that I've wanted to see for a long time in the original series, as the Titans and the humans fighting 100 years ago just sounded really cool, and it's kind of a shame that we never got to see that happen. It can be a way of giving you that same feeling of not knowing who to root for. Now the question is, how do we even get to that ending scenario? Well, it's actually pretty tough. I'm not sure how Isayama-san would have made the scenario play out in his own head, but there are some scenes that already exist that you might be able to call a reference to The Mist. The one that sticks out to me the most is the scene back in season 2, where two search parties are looking for the hole inside the wall at night. Isayama-san uses the darkness and the fear of Titans creeping out of the shadows to convey suspense here. It's something very reminiscent of The Mist. Now, I already know what you're going to say. Eren and his group are very much capable of killing pure Titans, and you could go as far as saying that they're not even scared of them. So we would have to instead replace that with something that might be more terrifying than a horde of pure Titans. The only thing that I think would work would be the threat of igniting the rumbling. I do understand that there are some holes in the plot with this, but it feels like the only way to get Eren to back down in a situation. Zeke would technically be the ringleader here, and our final epic conclusion would just be the battle to retake Shiganshina. Here we could have all of his comrades eventually die trying to get him to reach the basement in hopes that there is a key to saving humanity. We could have it to where he just barely makes it and then realizes that whatever answer his father left down there is gone. The rock that landed on his house that day caved in the basement and crushed everything inside. This is Eren's moment of desperation. Just like the man in the mist, he is surrounded by corpses of the people he cares about most, only to know that it was all meaningless in the end. I feel like it's better for his comrades to die not by his hands, but indirectly through his actions. Out of anger and frustration, Eren then fends off against each and every one of the Titans in hopes of making a difference and somehow beating the odds. But ultimately he realizes that he was in fact wrong. Humans cannot stand a chance against the Titans. He dies a noble death fighting for what he believed in. And that is your alternate ending for Attack on Titan. Is it any good? Hell no. But it's the only way I could conceptualize Isayama-san's original ending. Nobody knows how Isayama-san would have executed the idea, but I am 100% sure he would do a better job than I could. I just thought it would be fun to toss some ideas around and come up with another ending. I know there are probably a ton of holes in the story that I forgot to patch up, and I completely understand if you don't like it. Hell, I don't even like it. Like I was saying earlier in the video, this is all just one big what if scenario. I had heard about this alternate ending and thought it would be fun to try and workshop our own way of reaching it. By the time you see this video, Attack on Titan will have actually ended already, so hopefully that ending satisfies us a lot more than this one would. I'm open to talking about it all in the comments, so if you want to talk spoilers for 139, I'm game. Also, if you made it to the end of this video, I want you to leave a comment letting me know what all you enjoyed from it, as this video was kinda tough for me to make because halfway in I wasn't quite sure if people would like it. So if I did do something right with this video, please let me know. I need to know that this was worth it, because halfway through I wasn't quite sure if my crackpot theory was going to be enjoyable to watch. Anyways, I appreciate all of you taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave it a like, and I will see you all next time. You left your mark, yeah, you were here. You left your scar.